Hey, welcome to the podcast, The Way I See It, which is where we talk about money, finance, personal development, and just how we learn from each other, right? So, Happy New Year to everyone. We made it, guys. We're in 2022, and I know it's going to be a better year in all ramifications. So, let's talk this week about how to pitch to investors, right? So let's assume you're like an entrepreneur or you're like an inventor or you have a new product or a service and you'd like to get, someone to invest in that offering. Normally you do a pitch deck, you go for presentations, and it's all you can really get that information online. But I want to talk maybe this week about how you can do it, the nuances, the best practices and all that, how you should go about writing that pitch deck and then approaching investors to put money into your business. That's what I want to talk about this week, right? And I have a few steps I'm going to walk through. The very, very first thing I would say to you, if you're an inventor or you want to get money, is to go get yourself an advisor, right? So the very, very first thing you want to do if you want to go pitch to an investor is to get an advisor, someone that understands money. It could be an accountant, it could be a mentor, but someone that understands money in general, general rules about investing. I can just walk you through it. You can have the best idea, but if you don't really know about money, you might lose money or fail to get, incentive that would, help you in that journey. And I'll give you a very, very good example. I had a friend that was trying to set up a startup and he had to go from Lagos to Abuja almost every week. So he would fly and he would stay in the hotel trying to get the regulators to approve the idea he had. He eventually got the license, right? And he had spent about 6 months flying back and forth, staying in the hotels. And when the company started and they had their first audit, the auditor asked, "Hey, do you guys have pre-operational expenses? Because I could like write them as expenses for you guys and reduce your tax that you guys might pay." And they didn't keep any records of that. And the guy said, "We didn't know that pre-optional expenses were a thing, So we just didn't keep receipts, we didn't keep tickets and all that, and we had no way of going to get them back." So they lost all those exemptions that they could have gotten if they had simply kept their tickets and their receipts for the hotels. So just getting an advisor, top level, to just say, "Hey, do it this way, do it that way." It's going to be your very, very first go-to. Get someone you can talk about money with and can basically guide you through the journey. Not your real accountant, but just get a mentor that you can go to and say, "This is what we want to do. Do you think it's a good idea? Can you look over these figures for us? What does this mean?" That's going to be your first thing you want to do. The next thing you want to do is you want to incorporate a company, right? When you are approaching an investor, you are asking them to invest in your idea, but they are going to invest in your idea by investing in the shares that you are offering, correct? And every company that you see is basically funded by two ways. There's going to be debt funding and it's going to be equity funding, right? So debt is someone's going to give you money and you're going to pay back that cash, right? You're going to pay back either with interest or whatever. But with equity, somebody is buying into your idea at like a partnership, like part owner of the company. So it's not a debt. He's taking a risk into your success and also your failures. If you fail, he can ask for his money back like that. But if you succeed, then he has a share of the business forever, right? So there's debt and there's equity. So you want to first of all decide, are you going to finance your company by issuing debt? Are you going to borrow cash? Or are you going to sell shares in your company? In which case you are going to sell equity, right? So when you set up your company, what you're trying to do is you're going to have issued capital. Is that issued capital that you're basically selling to investors in exchange for them putting money into your company? But if you do debt, right, you're not going to sell shares, you're just going to take a loan and then you pay back the loan. But if you do debt, equity investing, sorry, then you're going to sell shares to that company and then they will then give you cash in exchange for equity. So you want to be very, very clear on the type of finance that you're seeking, right? We're not just talking about how you're going to write a pitch deck, but top level, be clear. Am I going to go for debt? Am I going to go for equity? If it's debt, how long do I need it for? 1 year, 3 years? Where should I get it from? Finance house, a bank, a development company? Where can I get that cash from, right? And I'll just say, rule of thumb, I don't think it's a good idea to get debt for a startup because debt incurs interest charges. What you want as a startup is what we call patient capital. So someone gives you money and they can wait for you to make the mistakes and roll out to market without you paying back that cash flow in terms of interest. So if you can avoid it, trying to take interest paying debt at the very beginning. If you can take a loan and you don't pay back interest, say from family and friends, that's also a good idea. So you get like a moratorium on interest payments, but be very careful about taking debt at the very, very beginning. So when you then issue shares, the investors are going to look at your what's called your memoranda and your articles of association because that's where they will see who owns your company. Maybe you've sold shares to your parents or to your friends. It will be indicated in that memoranda and articles. They will see who is on there. So you want to make sure that if you're going, your story has got to match up. If you want 10% and you've already sold 15%, it's going to show up there. Don't let them go to CAC and do a search and see something different. So let your story match up with what's in the corporate documents that you're basically issuing, right? So these are the basic things that you want to make sure you take off. Are you going to take cash or are you going to take equity? Which is it they're going to use to fund your business? If you do cash, you pay interest. If you do equity, you don't pay interest initially, but you then sell a part of your business forever to an investor, right? So those are the two major considerations that you have to take at the very, very beginning. The next is to determine the value of that company. So remember, you're going to sell shares to the investor. But how much are you going to sell these shares for? Well, the way it works is this. The price you see, if you look at the stock exchange, you always see a price, say Zenith Bank is going for 10 naira, blah, blah, blah. What that means is this. The share price represents the earnings, the future earnings of that company, discounted back to today using a discount rate, right? So if I say my company's one share is 10 naira, I'm basically saying all the earnings I'm going to make from that company in the future, if I bring them back to today using a discount rate, it's going to be 10 naira. So whenever your income or whenever the company grows and adds new customers or gets a new patent, the value of that company increases. So if you just go to an investor with an idea, you say, hey, I have an idea to get motorcycles that can deliver food. That's just an idea. What's that idea worth? It's worth zero because there are no earnings coming into your company at the moment, right? But what if you have the idea and you've gone to the CAC and you've incorporated the company? Well, it's worth something because you pay the CAC, you have a name for the company. Maybe let's say it's worth a naira, it will be a naira or 10 naira. I mean, you've done some work. So we can say it's worth a 9 or 10 naira because you've added some value, right? You have the license. But what if you actually go to the patent office and you say, I have this idea, only I had this idea. So when I launch my company, I'm going to be the only one selling this idea to the general public. So you have a patent from the patent company. That's a big deal because then you now add a significant value to the company. So let's say the value goes up by say 5,000 naira or so. We're just ballparking here, right? And let's say that patent is approved, you have it in a license, it's only you that can do that sort of business. You can say it just has 100,000. Maybe it could be a million, it could be 10 naira, we don't know, but we're just saying as you add value, right, the company the price tends to go higher and higher. Let's say you then go to Amazon and you sign this deal with Amazon, and Amazon is going to distribute your product across the world. Wow. Now that's a big deal. Remember, even before you start to sell, you already have an agreement with Amazon. That is a big deal because the value of your company will then shoot up astronomically because the value in the future is being brought back to today, thus the share price has gone up. So you look at a company like Rivian that is going to make electric cars. See, hear what I said? It's going to make electric cars. They haven't made electric cars yet, but they're worth billions of dollars because of the future earnings potential of Rivian. It's the same thing with you, right? So if Amazon signs a deal with you and says, if you make this product with this patent, we will buy 1,000,000 units. The share price that you're going to have is going to go way up so you can sell a bit more shares and get more money, right? But what if you try that patent and the patent fails? It doesn't work as you had envisaged. While the product test fails, the share price will come down from that very high it went to right back down. So the thing is this, the more positive milestones you have, the intrinsic value of your company then rises. So the market determines the value and the pricing of that company, right? So the more you are able to add value to your company, the more the share price goes up, right? So that's what you're going to sell on your pitch deck. Hey, we have done this, we have done this, hence the value of my company has gone up. So now let's assume that we've agreed to sell shares, right? And we'll be able to craft a story around that share price to say we want to ask for 5 naira or 10 naira per share because of these reasons. We have a license, we have a market, we have this key person working for us. Those are going to be our selling points, right? Then we then have to ask ourselves, how much do we want to raise? We know we want, say, for instance, 10 million. So then how do we price our shares? Is it going to be 5 naira or 10 naira or 15 naira? Don't worry too much about this. You can hire an investment banker to do this for you because they will give you the best advice on how you can price your shares, right? How you can basically sell it to the retail or to the corporate market or to a venture capital, right, firm. So they will structure this for you, and then you can agree. You can even bring in your own ideas and say, "Oh, I want it to be more retail, so reduce the price and sell more shares." Or I want it to be a bit more corporate, so increase the price and then reduce the amount of shares, right? But remember, this what is key for you is to say, why is your share price worth that? At most times, you may not have already said to sell anything. So you're basically trying to say, listen, my share price is worth this amount of money because I have done this or I have done that. That is what is very, very important for you to be able to defend the share price that you have basically put out there. So one, you want to sell equity. Number two, your share price is built up by the milestones in your company that you have achieved, right? And then number three, you've then gone to a professional, like an investment bank, and then they can structure that memoranda for you to say, hey, we're going to sell this number of shares at this price, and we're going to go maybe A, B, and C round. So we're going to go first A, then go to B, and go to C as the company keeps on growing bigger, right? So this is basically your long-term plan that you have in your head. This is what you're all going to put into what's then called that pitch deck. So the pitch deck is essentially your presentation to the investors. It tells that simple but detailed story of your vision, your unique solution, the competition, and of course the money, right? So it's a very, very nice pitch design, presented in a very, very professional way. Even if you're going to be a lifestyle company, still remember you're asking people to give you money, right? So it's an emotional experience, but it's also a quantitative exercise. It's not really a business plan per se. You are pitching. You are trying to sell that idea to someone in exchange for the person to give you money. If you're not good in public presentation, get someone else to do it for you and say, hey, I'm the MD, but this guy's going to do the pitch. That's totally fine. You want to make sure that you have the first chance to make a first impression, right? And then you're able to get those funds. So now let's talk about the pitch deck. What's going to be in the pitch deck and how you can structure it. So we have the points 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to run through them. And remember, this article, I have it on my Nairametrics page. I write for Nairametrics every Monday. So you can go back in either on my Twitter page or Nairametrics. Just Google Kalu Aja, how to pitch to venture capitalists, and you'll see this article right there. I'm just going to give you the facts behind it. So the very, very first thing that should be in your pitch deck is state a problem, right? And then state what you want to solve or the process that you want to improve. Now you're going to, in the minds of the venture capitalist, tell him this is the problem or this is the current situation, and my solution would make this problem go away or it would improve it. So state that problem and what you want to do. For instance, I want to rent a flat, but I can't find flats in the city to rent. There are flats that are open, but I can't find them. So that's the problem, right? Then number two, explain how your product solves that problem, right? So are you going to offer a new way to find flats, or are you going to say we already have a way to find flats, but I can make it better? Or are you going to do a brand new thing that no one has thought about, right? So state the problem, explain what your product or service solves. Then is there a market for your solution? So you might have a very, very good idea, very, very good solution, but is there a market for it? Will people buy it? I mean, if you want to say you want to make purple cars, how many people like purple cars? So you want to say, yes, there's a problem. Number two, there's a solution, and there's a big potential size in the market because investors want growth. And if you say the market size is just 1 million, should they invest in a product that's going to hit 1 million and then stop, or would they like a product that can do as much as 100 million? So you want to basically talk about the potential market size that you're looking at, right? You don't want to sell a black and white television, right? Because that market is for very, very niche. You want to sell a product that solves a problem that has a big, big, big market share, right? So that's one to explain the market to them. Then, of course, you want to describe in detail that product. You've already described what the product solves, right? And the problem it basically makes better. So describe the product or the service in detail, right? What are the benefits? You are not going to sell the features, you're going to sell the benefits. So you don't say, oh, I want to make a car. I'm going to make something that makes you transport from here to here with minimal stress. So you're going to sell the benefits, right? So don't sell the electric car. You're going to spend less on petrol. Talk about the benefit. You'll talk about your regulatory approvals if you have them. So describe your product, describe your service. So one, of course, you want to state the problem. Two, how does your product solve that problem? Three, is there a market for your solution? Four, you want to describe the product or service. Then number five, you want to talk about the numbers, right? The numbers don't lie, and everyone wants to see the numbers. So talk about your sales if you have it. If you don't have it, do your projected sales. Talk about your traction. Talk about your income statement projected if you have it. If you don't have it, the balance sheet, the cash flow. Where would you get cash from, right? If you get the cash, where will that cash go to? This is where you then need that accountant to work this for you. You cannot leave the numbers to an accountant and say, I don't know about figures. If you are the CEO, you should know your numbers so that you can't escape this. We're not asking you to add maths, but we're asking you to answer a simple question. If I give you money today, where are you going to spend it? You should at least have that answer on the back of your mind. So show the numbers to the investors and explain to them that you understand exactly what you want to do with the numbers, and this is the success that you're going to get if they give you the numbers, right? Then talk about your team. Who and who are going to deliver this product that you described? Who is on your team? Why are they on your team? What's their experience? What do they bring? Any family? I mean, talk about your team to them. So you put a human face to the numbers and the solutions, right? Then, of course, you want to talk about competition. Very important, I think, that you tell the investors this is this competition, this is how big they are, but this is how we are going to outflank them. This is what we're going to do. So they don't ask you that question. You're basically saying, we know there's a problem, this is a risk, and this is how we're going to deal with that risk. Then, of course, the last is going to be your call to action. How much do you want from the investors, and what do you want from them? At what price? What are you going to do with that money? You want to basically tell the investors, I want this amount of money from you. I want it now at this price. And I'm going to use money to basically do this. Very, very important. Then, of course, the exit plan. That's going to be the last thing. When you get the money from the investors, remember they're investing in you because they want to sell in the future or to make a profit in the future. So give them an exit plan and say, hey, we're going to do an IPO in 5 years or in 4 years, or if we hit this milestone. Put that in there if that's your plan, right? So they can say, okay, I can invest in this and I can get out in 4 or 5 years at this profitability. It's always a thing in the US to talk about IPOs, not so much in Nigeria, but you should have to think about, listen, can I IPO in 4 or 5 years? IPO means the initial public offer when you would then sell shares to the general public. At this stage, you're selling to select private investors. So you want to talk about an IPO plan. So that's basically what you want to do in your pitch deck. So let's just do a final review one more time. Number one, state the problem that you want to solve. Number two, state how your product solves that problem. Number three, is there a market for your solution, right? Number four, describe your product or service in detail. Number five, show the numbers, the sales, the traction, the income, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. Number 6, who is on your team? Talk about your team members and why they're on your team. Number 7, talk about the competition and how you want to outflank and defeat the competition. Number 8, your call to action. What are you asking for? How much? How will you do with that money? And of course, number 9, your exit plan for the investors, right? Always important that you keep in touch after you pitch. Even if you get a no, always keep in touch. Send an email and say, thank you for the pitch. This is what we're doing right now. 3 months down, if you do get investors, also send an email and say, hey, we got investors. Want to notify you guys. Thank you for allowing us to come talk to you and all that, right? You always want to keep all your bridges open. You also want to join an angel network or any association that allows you that friction to see people when they talk about your plan. In Lagos, it's called the Lagos Angel Network. I highly recommend that you go join so you can talk to like minds and then learn from other people, right? Referrals are king. So you want to make sure that you're always talking about what you're doing and you're always getting people to talk about you and putting a good word in you, right? So people don't fail to raise money, not just because the ideas are bad. Sometimes just that they're not organized. You might have a really good idea, but you don't organize yourself, or your numbers are very different from what you are saying or what you're proposing. So it's very, very important that you stay organized, you know your numbers, you communicate visually, and you highlight your successes. Sell yourself because nobody else will. All right, guys, like I said, the article is out there. Make sure you download it and read it. My name is again Kalu. Thank you guys for listening. Keep following us on Twitter. That's at FinPlanKaluArcher1. Let's have a great, safe year, guys. Love you all. Bye.